If you didn't expect to see me here, I don't know why, because after everything that we saw, there's a few reasons. But the number one is that CM Punk is the World Heavyweight Champion, and we have feelings. Welcome to a post-Saturday night's main event, Notsam Wrestling emergency podcast, where, yes, CM Punk is the guy. He is the World Heavyweight Champion. For a lot of people, this was a moment that they've been waiting on. And of course, there was so much speculation, some of it driven by this very program, going into tonight's Saturday night's main event. As the days led up to tonight's show, there's no doubt that more and more people started thinking, what about a non-finish? What if the title stays vacant? What if the title stays vacant? Because people, myself included, have a fondness in our heart for chaos, for unpredictability. And who would have thought? We all need to keep in mind that it wasn't that long ago that we would have done anything in the world just to get a clean finish, just to get a result to one match. And that's where we're at tonight. CM Punk and Jey Uso walk into Saturday night's main event, have a hell of a match, build and build and build to this mega climax. And ultimately, after 1, 2, 3, no ifs, ands, or buts, no hijinks, no nothing, CM Punk is crowned the World Heavyweight Champion. And after almost to the day, I mean, a year and 11 months and change. So just about 2 years since CM Punk made the shocking return that he made to the WWE in Chicago at Survivor Series, CM Punk is now the defending World Heavyweight Champion. And I say the defending World Heavyweight Champion because, of course, he held the title for 5 minutes at SummerSlam, but he was never the defending champion. I guess he was the defending champion for a minute and then defended against Seth, who cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase and got the title. But now we're here. We're finally here, and this is something that we spent a lot of time in the last 2 years speculating on. This is something that 2 years ago, the minute CM Punk walked into that arena, we started having the conversation. Are they going to put the title on him right away? And maybe they would have had he not gotten injured at the Royal Rumble. Don't forget, he wasn't going to win the Royal Rumble. That was going to be Cody Rhodes, but going into WrestleMania 40, maybe he was going to become World Heavyweight Champion there. And they didn't get around to it. And who knows when this moment was actually going to strike. I don't know if it would have happened at Saturday night's main event had Seth Rollins still been World Heavyweight Champion, but Seth Rollins is injured. And there's no reason to even speculate what would have happened had this not happened or that not happened, because this and that did happen. And now we're here. And the reality is that CM Punk is the World Heavyweight Champion right now. So we get this match that is a nice, traditional, old school wrestling match. Slow build. We see the entrances. You know what I mean? Both of them in spectacular fashion. Both of them demonstrating what their connection is to the audience in WWE. Jey Uso coming out and not just picking one kid, but having a whole group of kids with all different color sunglasses hanging around him and doing that yeet chant and dance. Running it back, doing the whole deal, demonstrating to the world that this connection with Jey Uso that he has with the audience is real, and coming across as somebody that is probably not turning heel anytime soon, nor should he. Then you had CM Punk coming out straight from the entrance, down on one knee, realizing after checking his watch that it is indeed clobbering time, and heading to the ring. So we go back and forth with CM Punk and Jey Uso moving slowly, picking up the pace, making people believe. I think that the transition point in the match for me was when Jey hit Punk with the go to sleep, and then Punk returned Jey with a spear. Once Jey hit the GTS and Punk hit that spear, it was like, okay, there's a different energy. Now we know we've been building to this. That was either the transition. That's probably the transition into Act 2. right? Act 1 was a feeling each other out. Let's just settle in to the fact that this is actually happening. And if you're wrestling a match where you're going to have a schmoz or a non-finish, then I think a different Act 1 is necessary. But if you're wrestling a match that the story of the match is going to be that the right person won, the guy that fought harder on that given night, the better man, won the belt, then this is an appropriate Act 1, where the two guys are matched even up. And even this demonstration of a go-to-sleep from Jey Uso and a spear from CM Punk, the two borrowing each other's finishes, are kind of equally effective in the sense that they're very effective, but not quite effective enough. I mean, there was a moment when Punk hit that GTS and then was in the position that he's been in before, where he's down on his knees and Jey ends up slumping over his shoulders. And when CM Punk picked Jey up to give him that second GTS and he kind of fell backwards and the knees gave out, I thought it was legit. I thought it was like, oh, no, the internet's going to make sure that these two hear about this. I told you they shouldn't still be wrestling. But it was part of the act. It was part of the match. It was part of the story. Because as he falls backwards, they weren't scrambling trying to figure out, okay, our spot got messed up. What are we going to do next? Jey locks on the sleeper hold, the same sleeper hold that he put on Gunther to win the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 41. And it's like, yeah. And I'm yelling at my son, he's got the sleeper on. That's the move that he won. He won the world title with that move. And then Punk is able to roll through and hit the Anaconda Vice. Oh, no, the Anaconda Vice is locked in until Jey Uso is able to grab the rope. And ultimately, as the match goes on and we're deep into Act 3, it's that 2 GTS combo that Punk is finally able to pull off effectively to cover Jey Uso, 1, 2, 3, win the match, no questions. There was no interference. There was no interference from Jimmy. There was no interference from LA Knight. There was no interference from Bronson Reed. There was no interference from Braun Breaker. On this night, all parties involved. Much to, the complete opposite of how I saw this thing going. Now, we're still getting the tournament that I fantasy booked with you guys, but it was the opposite of that kind of chaos theory that I had brought to the table on I think it was Monday's podcast. It was just straight up, let's have a champion that nobody questions whether or not they're the champion. Let's have a guy who's got the belt and is the top dog on this brand. And if that's what you're looking for, it's tough to argue that CM Punk is not the guy that should have that title. Fact is that CM Punk, as champion, being chased for that title, makes for compelling TV. CM Punk not trying to prove that he's still the guy, but CM Punk being the guy makes for compelling TV. CM Punk is on the show far more often than you would expect somebody with his status to be on the show. He's on the show near every week. And the idea that we will have CM Punk as world champion on the show regularly is good television. There's a lot of movement to go with here. And I think, realizing that Seth Rollins, who said this week on I think Good Morning Football, that he was going to be out for 6 months, which if he's out for 6 months, November, December, January, February, March, April, it puts him back about 3 weeks before WrestleMania 42, if it's 6 months to the day. And by the way, Seth could be lying. I'm not going to say Seth's a liar, but the last time he was injured, he was lying. So there's always the possibility that Seth is lying. But the information that we have in front of us is 6 months, which doesn't put him back until right before WrestleMania. So who knows what that evolves into, but I've got to believe that he's not going to win the World Heavyweight title 3 weeks before WrestleMania. Stranger things have happened, but it just doesn't feel like the dynamic of the WWE that we're in right now. I think a lot of people going in had questions about the dynamics between Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso. This idea that, are they on the same side or are they not on the same side? This idea that maybe Jimmy doesn't want Jey Uso to be world heavyweight champion. This idea that maybe Jey Uso doesn't want to listen to Jimmy the way Jimmy wants Jey to listen to him. But the reality is that all we saw in that dynamic was the two of them in the locker room together, almost like a UFC style cutaway where Jimmy was, putting up the hands for Jey to practice his strikes. And they were completely on the same page. There was nothing about the show tonight that I caught that would lead you to believe that they are not on the same page. And I think that is something that you can do with brothers. These characters on the show that are actually brothers, because you can say, look, this is the way brothers are going to be. That said, I don't think that the story's done. I do tend to wonder if Jey Uso will not continue to fiend for this World Heavyweight Championship. If Jey Uso will not continue to strive for that title, even if it means that there can't be an Usos tag team reunion, even if it's not something that Jimmy is on the same page with. Who knows? I would think that he would based on the character, but we'll see. I don't see Jey turning heel. I don't see Jey being a heel chasing CM Punk, but stranger things have happened. LA Knight and CM Punk have built-in tension. I could see Jey Uso wanting another match, although he was beat fair and square, and the Jey Uso that we know would accept that. I think that LA Knight has a problem with CM Punk, and LA Knight's going to want an opportunity at that championship, but LA Knight got beat by Braun Breaker on Raw on Monday. I would think that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are both going to be in line for championship matches, and the fact that Braun Breaker beat LA Knight would have you believe that Braun Breaker is next. I think that the next step in this is realistically now Saturday night's main event is over, and that puts us 4 weeks, I want to say. Yeah, 4 weeks away from Survivor Series War Games. I would have to believe that the men's War Games match is going to be a Raw match. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to have nobody from SmackDown on the team, but I've got to believe it's going to be a Raw match. I would believe that CM Punk is going to be on one side of the cage. I think that CM Punk is going to captain a team, and I think that on the other side is going to be Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. And I think that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed will be tasked to come up with a team. I think that CM Punk will recruit Jey Uso so we can see if they can get along. The fact that we saw Brock Lesnar in that WrestleMania poker game promo, I would imagine that Paul Heyman will be able to get Brock Lesnar for War Games. I don't know. It's a stretch. But I would love to see Brock Lesnar in War Games. I think that when CM Punk and Jey Uso realize that the vision has Brock Lesnar, they're going to realize that they need something, and that's going to be the one thing that allows CM Punk to swallow his pride and ask Roman Reigns to join the War Games team. Now, that's going to be a tall order because Roman Reigns does not like CM Punk. But I would imagine that Jimmy and Jey will both be on CM Punk's team, and I would imagine that they would try to convince Roman to join them. And I think they would say, Oos, like, the three of us had Punk on our team last year, and we won. So we need you, Big Oos. Like this needs to happen, and we need to get revenge on Heyman. And maybe that will be enough for Roman Reigns. After that, you'll add more heels till you get to 5-on-5, and you'll go forward with it. But I think here, I think the question's going to come up of where was Seth Rollins. Now, we know Seth Rollins is injured, but Seth Rollins said, as long as there is air in my lungs, CM Punk, you will never be World Heavyweight Champion. The fact is that there's a bigger story here, right? That Seth Rollins is gone, and Seth Rollins cherished that World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins, it was his. It was practically created for him. He was the first World Heavyweight Champion. He was the last guy before now to hold the World Heavyweight Championship. Part of the vision was the amount of power that came with that World Heavyweight Championship, how important it was who was the World Heavyweight Champion. And Seth Rollins has to realize that under Paul Heyman's watch, not only was he betrayed, but while he's gone, the thing that he promised would never happen as long as there's air breathing in his lungs happened. And there's still air in his lungs. CM Punk is the one that holds the title that Seth Rollins once held dear. So as much as Becky Lynch has made it clear that Seth is going to come back, and Becky told Paul Heyman that Seth is going to come back and he's going to destroy everyone that you love in this business. Clearly, I think CM Punk is still on that list, and I think that he's going to have a personal animosity with CM Punk, even more so than before, because CM Punk, within weeks of him being gone, did the one thing that he never wanted to happen, and that's CM Punk won the World Heavyweight Championship. I could see having a CM Punk versus Braun Breaker match on Monday Night Raw before Survivor Series. I think it'll end in a schmazzola. Because you have to look ahead now, right? I mean, the reality is, I don't see this being a short-term thing with CM Punk. I think that whether it was the plan or not, whether we knew we were going to be here at the end of 2025 or we didn't know, it doesn't matter. This is the CM Punk run. CM Punk tweeted something that I just saw before I signed on that I thought was great. It came from CM Punk's Twitter account. It just says, "Still here, #SNME." And it's a picture of baby Homer from The Simpsons. And he's looking, and this moment was amazing. He's looking at CM Punk winning his first World Heavyweight Championship after cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase. CM Punk winning the Money in the Bank briefcase the very first time he won it was so incredibly special because there was already this thing about CM Punk that it was known that the powers that be at WWE didn't get him. I got him. Other fans got him. I was a CM Punk super fan. I was a fan of CM Punk when he was in Ring of Honor. I was watching CM Punk on VHS tapes that were copies of copies of copies so I could see the matches that he had with Chris Hero in IWA Mid-South. And he was one of those guys that was earmarked for one of the best wrestlers on the planet will never be in WWE. And when he got to WWE, it wasn't like, oh, he's going to be one of the greatest to ever do it now that he's here. That is a thought that we would have now. If you only know WWE today, of course you would think that thought. You may not even understand how you wouldn't think that thought. But the fact is that back then, there was a total separation. And there wasn't this idea that if the best wrestler from outside of WWE comes to the WWE, they'll still be the best wrestler. In fact, it was the opposite. If the best wrestler from outside of the WWE comes to the WWE, they're probably going to bury him, is what you thought, because it happened. We just had an interview with DDP on this podcast a week ago, where he talked about how he went from being one of the biggest baby faces in WCW, a former world champion, to being used nonsensically in WWE. Whether it was on purpose or not, it was just the way WWE was done. And when CM Punk won the Money in the Bank briefcase, it was so special because there was this thing that it was magic. Because at that time, the success rate for cashing in the briefcase was much higher than it is now. But also, as a matter of fact, I think it was 100% at that point. I think at that point, nobody had ever failed to cash in. So it was like basically, if you won that briefcase, you're going to get the world title. But up until the briefcase, you would have said CM Punk is never going to be WWE World Champion. That was a thought. And so when he had the briefcase, there was this like, oh my God, is this even possible? And then when he won the World Heavyweight Championship, it was surreal. And it began this very slow path that got him to the point where he's now one of the greats. He's in that tippity-top all-timer conversation. And so it's baby Homer watching OG CM Punk win his first World Heavyweight title. And then it's current day old Homer watching CM Punk win his current World Heavyweight title. The World Heavyweight title that he now holds. And I do think that there is a thing where if you tell people, yo, CM Punk is the champion right now, people who haven't watched wrestling in a long time will watch wrestling. If people find out, is CM Punk the champion right now? Oh, I used to love that guy. They will turn on Monday Night Raw to see what this looks like now. And I think they'll, who knows, maybe, just maybe, they'll be entertained by the show. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Like I said at the top of this, I think CM Punk defending the championship, I think CM Punk being a chased world champion is compelling television. And I think that it is a brand new dynamic to have CM Punk in this position, because even this version of CM Punk, who has all the credibility in the world, is still the I've got a chip on my shoulder, I'm going to prove it to you, CM Punk. If anything, the chip on his shoulder evolved into I'm going to prove to you that I'm not this evil person who can't exist in a locker room the way I have been portrayed. And the evidence of that is the fact that there were so many when he came back 2 years ago. Let's see how long this lasts before he self-destructs. And here he is, World Heavyweight Champion, better than he's ever been. And perception, better than he's ever been. And the stories about him, better than they've ever been. It's remarkable. I think the idea of him being the man, not just the champion, but the man. Because that's the thing, right? CM Punk holding the World Heavyweight title is like, yeah, that's the dude right there. Not like, because you'll go like this, well, CM Punk was WWE champion. He was WWE champion for 427 days, which is true. But tell me where his match with Chris Jericho was placed on WrestleMania. Tell me where his WWE championship matches were placed on the show. Because if you go back to a lot of those shows, CM Punk was the world champion. John Cena was the main event. Ultimate Warrior was the world champion. Hulk Hogan was the main event. The more things change, the more they stay the same. But now, Punk is Hogan. Punk is Cena. Punk is what happened on Saturday night's main event. Who was the main event of the show? Punk. Cody defended the title. Punk was the main event because he's the guy. And so now you have guys that are fighting to get the opportunity to fight CM Punk for the championship. And that, to me, is a compelling dynamic. The idea that you could be in the Royal Rumble fighting for the opportunity to face CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. You could be in the Elimination Chamber fighting for the opportunity to fight CM Punk for the title at WrestleMania. I am hoping that CM Punk holds this title for 6 months. I am hoping that CM Punk holds this title until WrestleMania. Because I think that as much as there are other matches that you could do, there are plenty of opponents that you could have for CM Punk, and there are plenty of opponents that you could have for the challenger that I'm going to bring up. But the idea of Roman Reigns winning, say, the Royal Rumble, and for February, March, and most of April, you tell the story of Roman Reigns getting to get revenge on CM Punk. And you begin that story at War Games. You have Roman Reigns on CM Punk's team at War Games. As tense as it was a year ago, you bring that tension all the way up. It's the 1-year anniversary of the night that CM Punk poisoned the well. It's the 1-year anniversary of the night that CM Punk ruined the bloodline, ruined what they had created. That's this year's Survivor Series. Roman Reigns, on more than one occasion since then, when he came back and he helped Jey Uso up, but he wouldn't help CM Punk up. Roman Reigns, in a promo to Paul Heyman, said that you betrayed me by choosing CM Punk over me. He didn't say you betrayed me by choosing Seth Rollins over me. He didn't consider the ultimate betrayal to be the WrestleMania betrayal that happened in the match. He considered the ultimate betrayal to be the WrestleMania betrayal that happened on the way to WrestleMania. He didn't consider the ultimate betrayal to be the betrayal that cost him the match. He considered the ultimate betrayal to be the betrayal that was in the entrance of the triple threat match at WrestleMania. CM Punk is the one that took Paul Heyman from him, not Seth Rollins. So, let's say you were considering doing Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. What if you could do Roman Reigns versus CM Punk instead? What if that tension built at Survivor Series? What if they won that War Games match? What if Roman got them to win that War Games match? And Roman hugged Jimmy and Roman hugged Jey. And Roman shook the hand of whoever was on the team with them. And then Roman turned his back to CM Punk and walked out of the cage. And then what if Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble? And we spent that first quarter of 2026 building, and building Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. I remember discussing the idea of Roman Reigns versus CM Punk for the first time on CM Punk's second promo. It was the Friday after Survivor Series. He cut that first promo on the Monday after Survivor Series. People were a little like, meh. Then he goes to SmackDown and cuts his second promo, and that's the one that got people fired up because he was naming names. And he named Roman Reigns his name. And that's the first time I remember coming on here and talking to you guys about the idea that a CM Punk versus Roman Reigns match would be it. Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble this year, or Elimination Chamber. And the idea that Roman Reigns is going into WrestleMania to be the challenger to CM Punk's World Heavyweight Championship. And Paul Heyman has nothing to do with it. Paul Heyman is somewhere over here. Maybe by then we can, and you're like, well, what about Braun Breaker? Maybe by then we can do Braun Breaker versus Brock Lesnar. Maybe Seth Rollins is back in the mix. We can do Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins. There's a million things you can do. There's plenty of guys. And I know you, listen, CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes would be a great match. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes would be a great match. But what if you had Roman Reigns versus CM Punk that you could build starting, the first Raw of February, going all the way to WrestleMania, telling that story between Roman and Punk. Going back, how about the podcast, the CM Punk podcast, Make Roman Look Strong? There is so much history to talk about. And then what do you do for Cody then? What do you do for Cody? What if you wait and you don't turn Randy Orton until next year? And then you can go to WrestleMania with Roman Reigns challenging CM Punk and Randy Orton challenging Cody Rhodes? What if I told you WrestleMania could be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, Io Sky versus challenging Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair challenging Jade Cargill? Is that something that might interest you? Because it would convince me to buy a ticket to Las Vegas. I don't know about you. I can't wait. We're going to talk about, of course, the fact that Jade Cargill is the women's champion. And we are going to talk a lot about the announcement of the Last Time Is Now tournament. A tournament to determine who will be John Cena's final opponent in a month and change at the December 13th Saturday night's main event. And when will we talk about that? On Mondays, Not Sam Wrestling. Make sure you are here for episode 576 of Not Sam Wrestling, where we will break that all down. I will have my tournament laid out for you by then, I'm sure. I cannot wait to discuss it. Thank you for being here to get these feelings. This wasn't about facts. This was about feelings, and the feelings that we have over the fact that CM Punk is now the World Heavyweight Champion. Thank you, guys. We'll talk on Monday.